Crete lies like a barrier across the Aegean and Libyan seas. A bridge between east and west, its rugged mountains with their unique range of flora and fauna gashed by some of the most spectacular gorges in Europe. An island steeped in history and cultural tradition. The birthplace of the first European civilization and of its most ancient myths. Cretan history is a unique blend of influences: Minoan, classical, Byzantine, Venetian and Turkish. Independence and union with Greece added yet other elements. In the city's neoclassical architecture, European dress and style of living. Yet despite these pressures for change, Cretan culture proved resilient, especially in mountain villages, maintaining tradition while adapting to the new, a process continuing in our times. Western Crete is dominated by the mass of the Lefka Ori, shining with summer light and winter snow, giving them their name, the White Mountains. To the north, hills recede in waves towards the coastal plains, but to the south, mountains rise sheer from the sea. Rain and meltwater from the high peaks feed huge underground stores of water that break out in springs in the foothills, feeding streams and lakes, making this the greenest part of the island. Second in size of the cities of Crete and capital of its prefecture, Chania is a city of character, a fascinating blend of influences. It is also a thriving modern city with a rich cultural life, connected through its port at Southa and the airport on the Akrotiri with international destinations. With its mild climate, healthy diet and abundant opportunities for sports and outdoor activities, Crete is an ideal place for the development of new forms of tourism, away from the coasts and the crowds. A tourism in harmony with nature. Owing to its geological history that at various times has raised it from and submerged it into the sea, connected it, then cut it off from Greece and Asia, Crete is like a small continent with a full range of climatic and vegetational zones, from alpine to semi-desert. Its plant life is particularly diverse, with a total of 1,600 species and subspecies, 217 of which are unique to the island. Gorge flora is especially rich. In spring, the meadows and pastures are ablaze with flowers. Crete is particularly rich in eagles, vultures and hawks, including many rare and endangered species, chief of which is the bearded vulture or Yipaitos, which, though it has been nearly eliminated from the Balkans, survives here with just a few breeding pairs. These huge birds, with a wingspan of up to 3 meters, can be seen feeding from the observatory on the peak of Mount Aios Dikios. Among the rare animal species that are found in the mountains are the agrimi or krikri, a wild goat known since Minoan times. Sea turtles, caretta caretta, come ashore to lay their eggs on beaches around the coast. The Society for the Protection of the Sea Turtle has been set up to guard them from the disruption caused by coastal development. In order to preserve this biological diversity, 20 areas in Western Crete, covering more than 50% of the area, have been declared protective parts of the European network Natura 2000, under a European directive for the conservation of ecosystems. Crete is an island of gorges. There are over 30 just in the west, testimony to the enormous forces released by the subduction of the African beneath the European plate, resulting in the island's uplift. Each of these gorges has its own character, range of species and level of difficulty, ranging from those which can be easily passed in an hour or so, to others requiring a whole day's strenuous hiking. Chief among Cretan gorges is the famous Gorge of Samaria, one of the deepest and longest in Europe, visited by thousands of visitors from the beginning of May to the end of October. Another distinctive feature of the island are the mountain plains, of which there are about 25, including that of Omalos, at a height of just over 1,000 meters, and Askifu, route centers for walkers. The culture of Crete is a living thing, not just folkloristic decoration, but a necessary part of a life that is structured and ritualistic, with its numerous religious observances, fasts and celebrations of every stage of life, from birth to death. Dances range from the dragging sirto to the energetic pentozali, which may well have its roots in ancient warrior dances. The main traditional musical instruments are the lyra and the laoto, instruments with an ancient history in Crete. The lyra is an ancient Eastern instrument which came to the West in the 9th century through Byzantium and was brought to Crete in the 10th century by the Arabs, becoming widespread throughout the island owing to its relatively simple construction. The laoto, whose name comes from the Arabic alaout, wood, evolved from the ancient kithara, played throughout the East in ancient times. Believed to have been brought to Crete in its present form by the Arabs in the 16th century, it is a popular versatile accompanying instrument. Similar to the laoto, but with a smaller body and a longer neck, and variously known as the bulgari, yongari and liongari, this instrument first appeared in Crete at the beginning of the 18th century and was particularly popular among immigrants from Asia Minor in the first half of the 20th century. One of the most ancient traditional instruments of Crete, the askomandura, a goatskin bagpipe, was played here and in Western Asia from Roman times until the mid-20th century. It is now rarely heard. Other instruments such as the mandolin, violin, guitar, bouzouki and santuri, arriving later, were incorporated into the tradition. The songs are of two main types, resitica, which range from accounts of historical events to those accompanying the bridal procession, and mantinadas, short songs improvised within a set pattern.
Πρώτη φορά που τραγουδώ, έλα, έλα, πρώτη φορά που τραγουδώ, πρώτη φορά που τραγουδώ, εις του Πασχάδο Γιώργη.
Almost every day of the year is dedicated to a particular saint and is celebrated by all those sharing that name. Churches dedicated to saints and other holy figures also celebrate in Panegyria, in the most important of which the whole village partakes, attending the service in the church, feasting together, singing and dancing. Easter is the most important celebration of the year, a spring festival rich in symbolism, coming after 40 days of increasingly strict fasting. The 15th of August, Dormition of the Virgin, is next in importance, celebrated in villages throughout Crete. Locally, there are ceremonies of a unique nature, such as the blessing of the sheep in Apocoronas, held at the Feast of St. George on the 23rd of April. Among all the traditional costumes of the islands, that of Crete was particularly handsome. For men, high black leather boots to protect against the thorny brush, baggy dark blue or black trousers, vraka, allowing freedom of movement, and a richly embroidered waistcoat. For women, a full skirt in broad folds down to the ankles and a waistcoat. For celebrations, the costume was more ornate, made of finer material in richer colours, beautifully embroidered and decorated with jewellery. There were three distinctive styles of women's dress from Eastern, Central and Western Crete. Among the items never missing from male costume was the knife with a horn handle, tucked in its sheath into the wide belt or waistband of the thraka. Knife making is still a living craft in Crete. Although the craft of boot making is fairly common in Crete today, it is rare to find craftsmen like Nikos Yalis and his nephew Makis from Askifu, who continue to employ strictly traditional techniques, using wooden pegs instead of nails to bind the uppers to the soles, and hand-stitching the leather. At the Mitata in the high mountains, such boots will be worn continuously for 3 months. Cretan village architecture is a product of the environment, climate, and the materials that are at hand. Villages are often compact, sharing walls and threaded by a maze of alleyways. Pitched, red-tiled roofs are common in rainy mountain regions, flat ones in drier areas. Two distinctive features are the arch, often lofty and graceful, and the courtyard, full of flowering plants, shaded by a vine or mulberry tree, and housing the beehive-shaped bread oven. Doorways, especially those of Venetian houses, can be quite grand, with carved stone and woodwork. Houses tended to be of Spartan simplicity, just what was needed for daily life. Everything more or less in one room, with little or no decoration, beyond a few photographs and an icon. In the mountains especially, life centered around hearth and stove. Quite grand manor houses, with their walled estates, survive from the Venetian and Turkish periods, some of which, lovingly restored, house collections of implements, furniture and decorative art. At the Cretan house, Mrs. Aspasia Bikaki displays objects from Cretan life in their settings, believing passionately in the importance of handing down tradition to the younger generation and helping them to understand how people lived in the past. In order to bring the past even closer to people, Mrs. Bikaki is engaged in recreating scenes from her childhood in the village as she remembers it in her grandmother's time, embroidered with a wealth of detail, a labour of love. From this emerges a picture of life very different from that of today, one that was almost self-sufficient, in harmony with the seasons, making use of whatever was at hand, from garden cultivation to dairy products, clothing, footwear, all the necessities of life. Some of the skills that the women of the house were expected to cultivate were embroidery and lace making, something seen quite rarely now, but common just a few decades ago. The skills passed on from mother to daughter down the generations. In addition, many houses had looms for weaving woolen cloth for clothes and fabrics. Kalliopi Tsilibini of Gavalochori learnt lace making, using a special cushion called a copanelli from the nuns at Correchies in 1921, when she was 10, a craft she still continues today, at the age of 97. At the Arts Village close to Chania, the visitor can see a whole range of arts and crafts, including museum replicas, stained glass and clay sculptures. Parties of school children are encouraged to experiment with materials and colour. Jewellery making thrives in Chania, both innovative and traditional in design. A particularly fine Cretan potter, Sklavanitis, bases his designs and techniques on Byzantine originals.
Όλες οι τεχνικές αυτές, τα ιαλώματα, το χάραγμα, η κατασκευή των ιαλωμάτων, όλα ξεκίνησαν από το Βυζάντιο. Πρέπει λοιπόν να μην χαθεί και αυτή η τεχνική, να ακολουθούμε βέβαια τη σύγχρονη τεχνολογία και τα ευρωπαϊκά δείγματα σύγχρονης τέχνης, αλλά μην εγκαταλείψουμε και τις παραδοσιακές τέχνες.
Rediscovering colouring, glazes and techniques from Minoan times.
Μάλιστα εδώ στην Κρήτη που μπορούμε να πούμε ότι είναι η μάνα της κεραμικής. Γιατί από το 6.000 χρόνια π.Χ. ακόμα έχουμε κεραμικά, δηλαδή πιο παλιά από τη Θεσσαλία, πιο παλιά από το Αιγαίο. Έχουμε αξιόλογους κεραμίστες που παίρνουν μέρος σε διεθνείς εκθέσεις, με βραβεία, με διακρίσεις, άτομα καλλιτέχνες με φαντασία, με ταλέντο, που έτσι έχουμε ελπίδες ότι δεν θα χαθεί ποτέ η κεραμική στην Κρήτη και θα προχωρήσει πάντοτε πάνω σε σύγχρονη τεχνολογία και εισάξια της ευρωπαϊκής κεραμικής.
Up until quite recently, the rural Cretan diet was wholesome and simple, based on what could be grown locally or found growing wild. Meat and fish, away from the coasts, were occasional treats. The consumption of fruit and vegetables was exceptionally high. The amount of olive oil consumed per person far outstripped that of anywhere else in the world. As a consequence of this, and of their whole way of life, Cretans suffered an almost negligible level of heart disease, lower by far than any other country studied, and had exceptional longevity. Despite the inroads made by processed convenience foods and the overconsumption of meat, saturated fat and sugar, there has been a revival of interest in the Cretan diet and a lot of research done on it, bringing an increased awareness of just what it is that makes it so healthy. In particular, extra virgin olive oil has been shown to bring an abundance of benefits, including reducing cholesterol and lowering blood pressure, protecting against cardiovascular disease and cancer. In spring, the fields are full of people bending over to cut horta, a generic name for any edible variety of wild plant, especially a type of chicory known as stamnangathi, eaten boiled or raw. A similar bottoms-up posture is used for the collection of snails, another Cretan speciality, cooked in many different ways with the herbs and plants of the particular season. The favourite being fried with oil, vinegar and rosemary, boubouristie. Pilafi is another celebratory dish, often cooked in capacious cauldrons on occasions such as weddings and church festivals. After boiling the chicken and lamb together, the meat is taken out and the rice cooked in the juice, giving it a delicious flavour. Cheese, produced from the milk of sheep and goats which graze freely on the wild plants of the hills and mountains, plays an important part in the Cretan diet. The main types are graviera, kefalotiri, another hard cheese, mizithra, soft and white, and then there is yogurt. Honey, derived from flowering herbs, is another Cretan product widely recognized for its flavor and quality. Honey has more than 70 substances which are necessary for the healthy functioning of the human body and has a curative effect on a whole variety of ailments. It can be served with rusks, poured over yogurt, with cheese, and in herb teas. Cretan house wine can be an acquired taste for those accustomed to standardized varieties. Because it's generally produced on a small scale in Western Crete, each family having their own vineyards, it is extremely varied, ranging in colour from a light rosé to dark brown. Alcohol is generally consumed socially and as an accompaniment to food. After the grapes have been trod, the leavings, straphila, are put into barrels and left to ferment. After a month or so, they are taken to the local still, where the clear and potent alcohol known as sikodia or raki is distilled, without which almost no social occasion is complete. Knowledge of the nutritional benefits and health-giving values of herbs and wild plants is still widespread in Crete, a knowledge handed on from generation to generation. It is common to find that mountain tea, malotira and dictamos are offered alongside ordinary varieties. Herbs, including oregano, basil, thyme and rosemary, are essential for Cretan cooking. Cretans are proud of their agricultural products, which they believe to have the best quality and flavour in the world. The harvesting of olives is not the back-breaking task it once was. Modern tools shake the fruit onto the nets. Local factories process the olives, extracting the oil, which is consumed both locally and exported throughout the country and beyond, as more people become aware of the value of high-quality virgin olive oil. Citrus trees, including oranges of several varieties, mandarins, grapefruit and lemons, thrive on the well-watered plains and in the valleys of the north. Harvested in winter, they are sent to packing stations for export, or pulped and turned into juice. Owing to the long hours of sunshine, an estimated 2,700 a year, and mild winters, a wide range of fruit and vegetables is grown. Honey, cheese, soap, herbs, meat, chestnuts and walnuts. Cretan products that are in demand in markets all around Greece. As the pace of modern life increases, so do people become more aware of the need to reconnect with natural rhythms through contact with the environment and the slower pace of rural life. Alternative tourism differs from mass tourism in that it is small in scale, locally controlled, and aims at the conservation of biological and cultural diversity, encourages sustainable development, reinvigorates rural communities, provides new markets for goods, opportunities for employment, and incentives and funding for the restoration and conversion of property. Conferences organized by such institutions as the Orthodox Academy of Crete, the Mediterranean Agronomic Institute, the Center for Mediterranean Architecture, and the University of Crete often focus on these environmental and conservation issues. The two main forms of alternative tourism are eco and agro-tourism. Although they have much in common, ecotourism is concerned with the natural environment, including rambling, mountain walking, and specialized tours to observe wildlife, flora or geology. While agrotourism enables visitors to participate in the functioning of the place they visit, feeding animals, preparing food, planting and harvesting crops. The innumerable mule tracks, calderimi, that crisscross the island, some of them ancient, many of them beautifully constructed, have been incorporated into a network of footpaths, the most important of which is the E4. Starting in the Pyrenees and crossing Europe and mainland Greece, it enters Crete at Castelli, and after traversing some of the wildest, most beautiful scenery that Crete has to offer, finishes at Zakros on the east coast. The E4 varies in difficulty from easy going to the extremely tough, especially in the waterless desert of the high mountains after the snow has melted. There are 4 shelters situated in the west, north, east and in the centre of the White Mountains, only one of which, Kalergi, situated high above the plain of Omalos and accessible by car, is open throughout the year. The Mountaineering Club of Chania organises regular hiking trips throughout the year, ski trips in winter and offers essential advice. After the long summer, day after day of settled sunshine and heat, change comes to Crete, the transition to another season. Almost overnight, the beaches that were crowded with holidaymakers are almost empty. Ferry boats and airplanes are full of people returning to work or school. The first signs of change are migrating birds flying in skeins over the bays. waiting for the winds that will lift them up over the mountains to Africa, and clouds forming over headlands and islands, wrapping the high mountains. Rain has washed away the dust. Distances open up. The colours are sharper, brighter. Dormant seeds sprout. Oranges and olives ripen. Plants flower again. The island starts to green. For most, a return to the routine of everyday life after the relaxation of summer. For some, though, a time to be active and explore.
Hey now, where do you go?
So today I start my holiday in Crete. No more timetables, just me and the bike and the island, exploring and writing.
What do you know? When lost old worlds are dying, listen to silent sighing. When falling stars are crying, say, leave now nothing less. All the dreams are burning fast. Leave now nothing less. All the dreams are burning fast. So stay still.
Νιώθω ότι το χώμα του νησιού με υποδέχεται, όπως κάθε φορά. Μια ζεστή, φιλική αγκαλιά ξύπνα έντονες μνοικές μνήμες που φτάνουν στο τώρα. Συναντώ την απλότητα και η ανησυχία της πόλης ξεθοριάζει μέσα μου. Κάθε χρόνο το καλοκαίρι περνάει σαν μπόρα πάνω από το σώμα της Κρήτης. Οι πρώτες βροχές την ξεπλένουν, αφήνοντάς την και πάλι απάτητη. Μια βόλτα στο παλιό λιμάνι θέτει τον εσωτερικό μετρονόμο σε σταθερά αργό τέμπο. Το άνοιγμα της θάλασσας πέρα από τα τείχη. Ο φάρος σαν οφθαλμός. Μια τσικουδιά σε ένα από τα σοκάκια της παλιάς πόλης. Οι αισθήσεις οξύνονται και το πνεύμα του ταξιδιώτη ξυπνάει τα μέλη μου. Χωρίς πλάνο, χωρίς οργανωμένη πορεία, με οδηγό το ένστικτο και την έλξη προς μέρη αυθεντικά. Το όχημα ελίσσεται σαν ορθογώνιο ερπετό στις απότομες στροφές, αποκαλύπτοντας μπροστά από τα ζαλισμένα μου μάτια εικόνες της φύσης που εναλλάσσονται. Στάσεις του ασκήφου. Ανακατεμένη από τη διαδρομή, περπατώ χωρίς να πηγαίνω κάπου συγκεκριμένα.
This morning, full of energy and fooled by the map, I cycled the zigzag up the ridge behind Chania to Malaxa. The last, steepest section nearly killed me, but the views were incredible. In one direction over the city to the sea, and in the other over Keramia, with its many villages, stretching to the foothills of the White Mountains, cut through by the Dikdamas Gorge. Close to Chania in terms of distance, but a world away from it in time. I left my bicycle at the village of Cambi and set off on foot, following a track leading up into the high mountains, where shepherds graze their flocks in summer, living in beehive-shaped stone huts known as mitata. It was a stiff, steady climb up to the mountain hut of Volikas, but worth it to experience the atmosphere of the high mountains. Sweaty and ravenously hungry at the end of a day of strenuous walking and cycling, I had a feast and some excellent wine at a taverna in Psychropigadi. I flew back down the zigzag as if I had wings. I was made an offer I couldn't refuse, to join a group of motorcyclists on a trip up to Theriso, through the gorge right behind Chania, then over a spur of the mountains and down into the next valley, past the hilltop village of Zorva to Meskla, with its abundant springs breaking out close to the church. An exhilarating ride in good company.
Έχοντας ακούσει για τις δραστηριότητες που προσφέρει το θέρετρο του Λευκορίτη, αποφασίζω να περάσω μερικές μέρες ηρεμώντας στους πρόποδες των Λευκών Ωραίων. Ο ιδιοκτήτης του κέντρου με υποδέχεται θερμά και μου εκθέτει όλο το φάσμα των επιλογών ενός επισκέπτη. Περίπατο στα βουνά, άσκηση σκοποβολής, ελεγχόμενο κυνήγι, ποδήλατο βουνού. Και η Πασία. Στο υπηκό κέντρο, μόλις λίγα μέτρα μακριά από το όμορφο δωμάτιό μου, έρχομαι σε επαφή με αυτά τα υπέροχα χαρισματικά ζώα. Μια μοναδική ράτσα στην Ευρώπη, τα κρητικά γεωργαλίδικα άλογα, που χρησιμοποιούνταν παλαιότερα αποκλειστικά για τη μεταφορά ανθρώπων. Ήταν δηλαδή τα γιοταχή της εποχής. Το επόμενο πρωί ξυπνάω γλυκά, περιτριγυρισμένη από τη φύση, και σιγά σιγά προετοιμάζομαι για την εξόρμησή μου στα βουνά, ακολουθώντας το ευρωπαϊκό μονοπάτι Ε4.
Today I went on a short Homeric journey. It started at the holiday centre of Platanias, opposite the island of Thothorou, which myth says was once a great whale and her calf turned into stone by Poseidon to prevent it from ravaging Crete. The island, garrisoned by the revolutionaries, was blown up by the Turks and is now a preserve of the Cricri. But if you think of it as a great monster, mouth gaping. Such stories, are they just for children, gullible tourists? Or can they bring the magic back to all of our lives? Leaving Platanias behind, I found myself in the green valley of the river Keritis, with its many small villages, neat market gardens and tiny churches. What if the Keritis really was the river Iardano, mentioned by Homer? After crossing the wartime bridge, I found myself in lush groves of citrus, oranges, mandarins, grapefruit and lemons. The river hidden by tall reeds, trees tangled with blue convolvulus, views opening to the wonderful blue of the mountain. At Lake Aya, a good rest, calls of water birds, sighing of the wind through the reeds. Then cycled off west, stopping off at a wonderful Byzantine church. On the way back, I turned off into a riverside grove of plane trees, the forest of Platania, another ancient name. Close to the village of Thrisis is a twin-peaked hill with the church of Ai Giorgis, marked on the map as being the site of ancient Pergamo, or according to the guidebook, Homeric Kydonia, overgrown, wild, mysterious.
Μέσα από τις χαραμάδες της γέφυρας ανοίγομαι στο κενό. Μια βουτιά 150 μέτρων. Μόνο ο Θανάσης, ο θαραλέος της παρέας, την επιχειρεί.
Έχεις ο νους ότι πέφτεις στον αέρα. Γεια σου.
Ο νους μου ταξιδεύει στους κατοίκους του χωριού της Αράδενας και του Άι Γιάννη. Διέσχιζαν το φαράγγι μέσα από ένα και μοναδικό μονοπάτι που τους ένωνε με τον έξω κόσμο, ώσπου να χτιστεί η γέφυρα το 1986.
Today I started to explore an area called Apocoronas. Simple enough on the map, but actually quite complicated, with little winding roads and wave after wave of hills. Nearly every place I visited made its own particular vivid impression. The village of Macheri, picturesquely sited beneath a cliff in a wooded valley, where I made the mistake of playing football with some little kids who thrashed me. I must be the worst goalkeeper on earth. The road into Armeni, cool in the shade of eucalyptus trees, where springs of deep blue water bubble up from the roots of plane trees. The abundant springs, Byzantine church, and the fossilized skeleton of a pygmy elephant at Stylos. A bit further on, a Minoan settlement, and a really impressive Minoan tomb. Samonas, like a cockpit high on its hill, so peaceful, without cars or any other sound, beyond the cries of hawks and the splashing of water into the swimming pool. The wooded valley of Kyriakoselio, with its architecturally perfect Byzantine church. Everywhere there were people only too willing to tell me about their villages and to offer help. Such stories: the war, battles against the Turks, revolution. This morning I set off to explore a string of villages in the foothills of the mountains, starting at Lake Kornas, one of the few freshwater lakes on Crete, an eye of blue in the rugged landscape. Once again I was lucky with the contacts I made. At Kastelos with a man in the Kaphanion who took me to see a forest which he said was unique to Crete. At Patima with someone else who showed me a ruined Venetian church. And at Philaki, whose name means prison, with villagers playing games and chatting outside the Kaphanion. Down at the bottom of the village was a church with an unusual tombstone carved with worn double-headed eagles. And the prison, gaunt and atmospheric in the dusk. Two old ladies came out to chat and offered me tsikoudia, one of them telling me about her 8 children, dispersed in many places, as a huge full moon rose above the hills.
Στο Στο χωριό του Αϊγιάννη, η κυρα Βαγγελιό μας ανοίγει το σπίτι της, όπως και την καρδιά της, με την αμεσότητα των παλιών ανθρώπων. Μια καθαρή ποιότητα ψυχής, που στις πόλεις έχουμε ξεχάσει. Στα άδυτα της κουκλίστικης κουζίνας της, η κυρα Βαγγελιό μας μοιεί στη συνταγή της φακιανής πίτας.
Συνήθως, όση ζύμη βγάλουμε, τόση πρέπει να είναι και η μυζήθρα που ετοιμάζουμε για την πίτα. Μπράβο, μα κοίταξε τι όμορφη.
Arriving at Vamos, I went straight to a cafeneon in the old centre, with its balcony sticking out like a jetty, affording wonderful views. The end of October, rainy and cold back in England, but here it's as if summer continues, the weather calm, the sun at midday burning on the skin. Vamos feels like a place that is thriving. Not only foreigners but Greeks come here to spend free time or to stay for longer periods. Restoration has been sensitively done. All this was initiated by a group of local people who founded a company in 1995 to develop the town in an alternative way, preserving not just the buildings but customs, traditions, products and facilities that had been neglected. Taverna, cafeneon, shops, guest houses. That morning I took part in a grape harvest and treading, something I've always wanted to do.
Στάση με θέα το λιβικό πέλαγος. Το τέλος μιας υπήρου. Η υπόσχεση μιας άλλης. Μέσα από το βλέμμα του αετού, η αρχαία πόλη της Τάρα ζωντανεύει.
vamos. Γεια σας. Γεια σας.
Sometime, either that day or the next, I went down with a group of walkers into the little gorge of Duliana. Nothing grand, but magic, owing to the calmness of the weather and the richness of vegetation. Tall trees covered in creepers. At one point we stayed absolutely quiet for several minutes, so we could hear the natural sounds. Then we reached a little church, a facade enclosing a natural cave in the creamy limestone. Next to it another cave, which had once served as a refuge for women and children escaping the Turks. Very atmospheric. Cookery lessons are held in a ruined, arched building that had probably been an olive press. I was a member of a team of 6 or 7 people being instructed by a friendly, smiling woman who seemed to really enjoy her job. First we were taught to make dako, pulp tomato and soft cheese on round Cretan rusks, which was easy. Then cock boiled in the pot with hilopites, a locally made pasta. And finally kalitsunia, everything done in an unhurried way with plenty of conversation.
Μετά από 4 ώρες διαδρομής μέσα από το φαράγγι, αλλάζει το χρώμα και ο ήχος, καθώς καταλήγουμε κατάκοποι πλέον στο άνοιγμα της παραλίας της Σούγιας.
Coming from England, where generally things are gentler, softer, what strikes me about Crete are its contrasts. The sharpness of light and shade, something bright and sharp in the characters of the people, in contrast to the darkness of their history. This struck me again when I came down into Kandanos in its rich green valley, following a fine stone-built road through a gorge, a place about as peaceful as could be. And arriving in the main square, saw the slab erected in 1941 by the Nazis.
Έχοντας αποχαιρετήσει την παρέα, συνεχίζω μόνη μου τη διαδρομή προς την πόλη της αρχαίας Λυσού. Αλλά όχι και τόσο μόνη. Δέντρα σαν στοιχειωμένες παρουσίες και πορτοκαλί βράχοι που μοιάζουν με γιγάντια γλυπτά συνθέτουν ένα μυστηριακό τοπίο. Τα κουδούνια των ζώων αντιχούν, πλέκοντας γλυκές μελωδίες που με χαλαρώνουν. Αγναντεύοντας το λιμάνι της αρχαίας Λυσού, με δέος προς τη φύση και την ιστορία, παίρνω μια ανάσα πριν από την είσοδό μου στην πόλη.
Today I left Chania and moved west to Kolimvari, about an hour's cycling, where I found a room for the night and set off on the rough road to the Bay of Menjes, near the tip of the Rodopou Peninsula. Sections of the Roman road and the ruins of baths remain, close to the site of the sanctuary of Dikina, a pre-Hellenic goddess of nature, hunting and the mountains. The next day I went south to the village of Episkopi with its unusual Byzantine church, the Rotunda, with its 5-layered dome. After Episkopi, a deep gorge with the village of Roka on the other side. At the nearby village of Vouves stands an ancient olive tree, perhaps 3,000 years old, which provided leaves for the crowns of victory for the Athens Olympic Games in 2004. Everywhere I go, away from the beaten track, I keep coming across people who are keeping the old crafts alive, such as at a pottery at Nochia, where I was shown portable wood ovens based on those used in Minoan times, and scenes of the potter's father and assistants throwing pots in their workshop, using the old kind of footwheel. It was at Nochia I was lucky enough to meet the local priest, Papagiannis, who showed me the church with its unusual double icon, one side dating from the 17th and the other from the 12th century. From Nochia on the quiet old road, a wonderful moment when I suddenly had a vista of the whole of the bay and plain of Castelli. The pace of life in Castelli is noticeably slower than in Chania. I wanted to take a break from cycling and relax a bit before going on to see a few sights. Over the next few days I got to see Gramvusa on the tip of the peninsula, with its strange flat islands like ocean tankers, one of them crowned by a Venetian fortress. Falasana, with its classical harbour raised 6 meters above the sea. And Polyrrhenia, one of the main towns of Western Crete in classical times. But after the buses, taxis and boats, I'm getting itchy. I miss my bike. I want to get to the centre of the prefecture, to end my holiday at the village of Milia, which I've heard so much about.
Απόγευμα Κυριακής. Μια μελαγχολική, φθινοπορεινή μέρα, με ιδιαίτερο φως. Ο κύριος Γιάννης με ξεναγεί στην περιοχή γύρω από το χωριό Βουλγάρο. Επισκέπτομαι σπάνια, ξεχασμένα μνημεία, πλαισιωμένα από άγρια βλάστηση. Η έγλη τους ξαναζωντανεύει στη φαντασία μου, μέσα από τις γλαφυρές ιστορίες του ξεναγού μου. Το κάθε φυτό συνδέεται με ένα μύθο. Το κάθε παραδοσιακό κτίσμα με χαμένα επαγγέλματα. Οι παλιές ιστορίες μου υπαγορεύουν σχεδόν μια νοσταλγία για μια εποχή που δεν έχω γνωρίσει.
Crete is full of surprises. Once I left the coast and got up in the hills, I came across whole areas I never thought existed. The first surprise was at Potamida, weird formations, whitish and crumbly, a miniature Arizona. After Vulgaro, the cycling got tough, until I reached the village of Topolia, picturesquely sited at the entrance of a gorge. A great gash in the mountain. Here, at just the right place, was a spring of cool water. At a bend in the road just after Topolia, there are great views, back down the valley to the sea and straight ahead into the gorge with its perpendicular cliffs, caves and tree-lined river running deep in its bed. From here it's a downhill run along a narrow road, winding along a ledge, diving into a tunnel, emerging into the light. I came down into the village of Sassalo quite late in the evening, the light fading, giving it a special atmosphere. Though it is quite remote, it was good to see that the village is alive, people going about their tasks as I cycled through, a genuine Cretan village. I got a strong feeling for the season here, trees laden with fruit, quite a fertile place, in stark contrast to the gorge above which I cycled, grand and impressive, with its scree slopes and hovering hawks.
Το χωριό έλος με μάγεψε με την απλότητά του. Είχα την τύχη να παραβρεθώ σε ένα παραδοσιακό πανηγύρι. Οι ντόπιοι μου πρόσφεραν απλόχερα τη φιλοξενία τους. Όπως το θέλει η παράδοση, με κάλεσαν σε ένα σπίτι για καφέ και γλυκό, όπου μου μίλησαν για το χωριό τους και για το ρόλο που έχει παίξει στη ζωή τους η παραγωγή του καστάνου.
The hardest cycling came at the end of the day, the road climbing up to a point commanding views in all directions. Hot and sweaty, I coasted down into Milia, its 12 houses scattered among oak and chestnut trees in a green valley, hidden from the world.
Τελευταίος προορισμός του ταξιδιού μου, η Μιλιά. Ένα χωριό εγκαταλελειμμένο στο παρελθόν από τους κατοίκους του, λόγω δυσκολιών επιβίωσης, που αναβίωσε μέσα από το όραμα και την επίπονη προσπάθεια λίγων ανθρώπων. Ο οικισμός αναστηλώθηκε χρησιμοποιώντας ντόπια υλικά και σύμφωνα με την αρχιτεκτονική του τόπου, μέσα σε μια ευρύτερη φιλοσοφία για την προστασία του περιβάλλοντος. Για λίγες μέρες θα έχω την ευκαιρία να ζήσω όπως οι παλαιότεροι άνθρωποι, χωρίς πολυτέλειες, απλά, μόνο με τα απαραίτητα. Το πετρόχτιστο σπιτάκι μου θυμίζει φωλιά εξωτικού. Ο Γιώργος, ένας από τα βασικά στελέχη της προσπάθειας, με συναντά για να μου μιλήσει για τον κύκλο ζωής στη Μιλιά.
Διατηρούμε τον κύκλο ζωής γιατί θα έλεγα ότι δεν πετάμε τίποτα. Τα υπόλοιπα της κουζίνας θα πάνε στα ζώα. η κοπριά των ζώων θα πάει στους κήπους. Οι κήποι θα παράγουν τα φυτά που θα επιστρέψουν ξανά στην κουζίνα. Ένας επισκέπτης θα μπορεί να μας ακολουθήσει, να παρακολουθήσει τις ασχολίες του τόπου εδώ. Θα μπορεί μαζί μας να φτιάξει τα ζώα, να δει τα ζώα, να αρμέξει τα ζώα, να φτιάξει το γάλα μετά με ζήθρα ή τυρί, ανάλογα την περίοδο. Θα μπορεί να έρθει στους κήπους, να ασχοληθεί, να σκάψει, να κόψει, να δει πώς ένα φυτό μεγαλώνει. Θα μπορεί ένα σχολείο να δει αυτό που δυστυχώς πολλά παιδιά δεν ξέρουν. Αν η ντομάτα, ας πούμε, είναι καλοκαιρινό φυτό ή φυτό του χειμώνα, γιατί στα σούπερ μάρκετ υπάρχει όλο το χρόνο. Να δει πώς είναι η μπάμια ή το φασόλι. Να δει πώς εμβολιάζουν ένα δέντρο. Να δει και να παρατηρήσει πράγματα και αντιδράσεις της φύσης.
It was at Milia that I met Natalie, a young woman from Athens who, like me, was touring around western Crete. It was our diaries that brought us together.
Γνώρισα τον Κλειφ, έναν Άγγλο ταξιδιώτη. Μοιραστήκαμε τις εμπειρίες μας από το ταξίδι μας στην Κρήτη. Αποφασίσαμε να ακολουθήσουμε μαζί τις δραστηριότητες που προσφέρονται στη Μιλιά. Μεταφέραμε τη σοδιά μας στην κουζίνα και βοηθήσαμε να φτιαχτεί το ψωμί της ημέρας.
Made bread and climbed to the top of a neighbouring hill, from which vantage point could be seen the Bay of Castelli, Gorges and hills to the west. A very special moment, looking out over that landscape towards the distant sea.
Στο τέλος της ημέρας βρεθήκαμε στο μικρό θεατράκι.
I got there first and started to do a Morris dance for my own pleasure, not thinking that Natalie would join in and that it would all be filmed, as it was. A mixture of English and Greek dance, Natalie dancing with an apple in her mouth. I very much enjoyed my stay in Milia. There was something warm about our welcome there, and the place was really peaceful. And the chemistry between me and Natalie was exactly right.
Του χάρισα ένα ψωμάκι από αυτά που φτιάξαμε μαζί, σαν ενθύμιο της παρέας μας.
We clicked from the moment we met. So, strangely, everything we did there really happened. It wasn't as though we were acting or pretending at all. So much so that when we came to film the scene where we parted, I felt genuine sorrow.
Όσον αφορά τον αγροτουρισμό, για μένα είναι ο τουρισμός του μέλλοντος. Γιατί είναι κάτι που συνεχώς αυξάνεται. Είναι κάτι που επιδιώκει και θέλει ο άνθρωπος να επιστρέψει κοντά στη φύση. Ο άνθρωπος είναι κομμάτι της φύσης και όσο και αν προσπαθεί να απομακρυνθεί, κάποια στιγμή θα γυρίσει σε αυτό.